Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. I'm back after a long time, and today we have with us again Professor Sreejit Datta, who gives us absolutely unheard of before facts about Bengal's history and the proud history of Bengali nationalists. Today we are going to find out about a person whom I had not even heard of pretty much. At the moment, even now, I have not researched anything about him because I want to know all from the direct from the horse's mouth, who is Professor Sreejit Datta here. So, sir, tell us who is Satish Chandra Mukherjee and what are his contributions?
Yes, first of all, hello and thanks for having me here again. And when you mentioned that you will be hearing, or rather, our audience today will be hearing it from the horse's mouth, let me mention at the very outset my sources. So, whatever we are going to discuss about Acharya Satish Chandra Mukhopadhyay and the contributions that he made to the Swadeshi movement and to the larger Indian freedom movement uh, are from two specific sources.
Okay.
One is by the historians Haridas Mukhopadhyay and
Oh,
Uma Mukhopadhyay. They have written a sort of definitive biography, a historical biography of Acharya Satish Chandra.
I see.
And the other one is basically a book edited by Professor Haridas Mukhopadhyay,
Okay.
which is called Binoy Sarkarer Boithake.
Oh, I see.
This is a fascinating conversational book where dialogues with uh, uh, Vinay Sarkar have been recorded by many people, including Haridas Mukhopadhyay, who has taken the lead in these conversations, basically prodding Vinay Sarkar to talk about his association with the Dawn Society of Acharya Satish Chandra and Satish Chandra's direct contributions to his own life, apart from his larger role in the Swadeshi movement. So these are the two sources. And to begin about Acharya Satish Chandra, let me mention he was born in the year 1865. Why is this important? It's important because we get to know an idea, get to have an idea of which era he is a product of. Okay. Uh, I think many of us are aware that 1860s gave birth to many stalwarts in the Bengali Renaissance and the Swadeshi movement milieu. Notable among whom would be Rabindranath Tagore, 1861, and then, of course, Vivekananda, 1863. 1865 is the year when both Acharya Satish Chandra as well as Hirendranath Datta, another very important protagonist of the uh, Swadeshi movement, and nowadays again equally less known, just like Acharya Satish Chandra, even though his son, the poet Sudhindranath Datta, is probably more well known than he ever was to generations after the 1950s,
Hmm.
the post independence generations.
Yeah.
So this was a basically very important decade, the
Right.
1860s, in terms of the sheer number of notable personalities that Bengal gave birth to. Acharya Satish Chandra was born in a village called Bondipur in the Hooghly district,
Okay.
and his father was a clerk in the Calcutta High Court, where he used to translate documents into English. Uh, as a result of working in the High Court, he came into contact with many important judges and leading lawyers of his time, uh, several of whom were leading proponents also of the positivist movement. If you remember, in one of our previous
Yeah.
podcast conversations, we had mentioned how Bankim Chandra, Rishi Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, was highly influenced in his youth by the positivism philosophy of Auguste Comte,
Hmm.
the French philosopher. So this
Could you
same,
Srijita, could you
Yes.
define positivism a bit for the people who are not from social science backgrounds?
Right. So positivism has two main tenets to, simply describe it as a philosophy of atheism, that it does not admit of any divine being or God
Hmm.
as the controller or as the lawgiver and sort of regulator of the universe. So there is no place for the divine in
Hmm.
positivism.
Hmm.
But what is most notable about about positivism is this second tenet, which is how universally
Hmm.
uh, a humanity thought of as a deity can be the object of worship. So positivism talks about the universal entity
Hmm.
called humankind as the deity, which is the
Oh.
object of worship. Therefore, every effort
Hmm.
should be made by those who believe in positivism to create resources, opportunities, and situations where some betterment of the humankind can be done.
Hmm.
Okay, so the whole talents and time should be devoted to the betterment of humanity, and humanity itself should be looked upon as the object of worship.
Hmm.
So this is, in a nutshell, in a very broad stroke, what positivism is all about.
Hmm.
Now, many people in the 1860s, 70s, especially in Bengal, got very attracted to this particular philosophy. I had earlier described this sort of fascination for this specific European philosophy given
Hmm.
by Auguste Comte uh, as comparable with the sort of modern day or the late 1990s, not even 1990s, but 1960s onwards, fascination with Marxism.
Hmm.
Okay, so just like Bengalis became very fascinated with the Marxist ideas,
Hmm.
communist ideas in the 1930s, 40s onwards, and it became more and more pronounced in the 1960s and 70s, uh, as a result of which there was a communist government ruling West Bengal from 1970s to early 2010s.
Yeah.
So Bengalis back in the day in late 19th century, 1860s and 70s, were fascinated with positivism.
Hmm.
Now, as a result of his father's fascination and involvement, active involvement with the positivist movement in Bengal, he was a member of several positivist associations, clubs, and so they used to frequently meet and talk about how positivism can be spread all over Bengal and indeed all over India. Satish Chandra, as a young lad, he also became highly influenced by it.
Hmm.
It's natural because in
Yeah.
his family and the milieu, the cultural milieu in which he grew up,
Hmm.
uh, there were direct influences of positivist thinkers,
Hmm.
including his own father.
Hmm.
And after he got admitted to the Presidency College in Calcutta, this was the time when he first came to Calcutta. Before that, he was studying at his village. Uh, he started to meet certain other young men who were highly attracted to the uh, new revival of Hinduism that was taking place.
Hmm.
Now, many people like to describe this new revival as neo-Hinduism, but I
Hmm.
think that's a very problematic term.
Hmm.
I have described why it is problematic in some of my writings recently, but it's important to note how there was a new enthusiasm which was being visible,
Hmm.
and a certain new approach to
Hmm.
interpret Hinduism was also being visible from several quarters.
Hmm.
Firstly, from people like Bankim Chandra,
Hmm.
which was very obvious
Yeah.
because Bankim Chandra wrote in Dharma Tattva, Ananda Math, and Krishna Charitra. In such books,
Hmm.
he gave a very new interpretation of what Hinduism is, and therefore what should be the duty of Hindus.
Hmm.
and also what should be the duty of Hindus and Indians as a whole towards the nation, the Hindu nation and the Indian nation. The second was, of course, the influence of the Brahmo Samaj movement. And when Satish Chandra was a young boy, there was a very important incident in the life of this movement, which is the splitting of the Brahmo Samaj into three schools of thought. Okay, so from the Adi Brahmo Samaj, Keshav Chandra Sen was expelled because of his uh, extreme leaning towards Christianity. He was highly attracted to Christian ideas and ideals. And because Mahorshi Devendranath of Adi Brahmo Samaj was a vocal critic of Christian missionaries converting Hindus, therefore he could not tolerate that, and he was forced to expel Keshav Chandra. So Keshav Chandra started a new school, the Navabidhan. Navabidhan came later on, Bharatvarshya Brahmo Samaj. That was the new school that Keshav Chandra started. And after a few years, there was another bifurcating of this, of this school that Keshav Chandra had created in the name of Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. So Sadharan Brahmo Samaj was a new faction which came out from the school of Keshav Chandra. And here people were highly attracted to European ideals, and they were talking about rationalism mostly, almost the kind of thing that we got to see Devendranath fighting against, with people like Akshay Kumar Datta, etc. They were talking about adopting rationalism as the highest sort of highest goal and highest end of the Brahmo Samaj movement. Devendranath, of course, did not relent to that in totality. So this sort of bifurcation of the Brahmo Samaj was another very important element in terms of understanding, the environment in which Acharya Satish Chandra grew up. And the third element was the emergence of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna started to attract through his sheer simplicity and his piety and his extreme love for God. Several educated, highly educated, in fact, members of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. People from the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj who used to frequently visit Sri Ramakrishna at that time were people like Vijay Krishna Goswami, okay, who was actually an acharya of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj.
Okay.
He used to work at the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj to preach from the altar of the Samaj. They had weekly sessions for such preaching and congregational worship. And because many, day by day, more and more people started to frequent Sri Ramakrishna, including, people like Narendranath Datta, who would later become Swami Vivekananda. Sri Ramakrishna's Dakshineshwar was becoming a new center of a social revolution. Okay, so socio-religious revolution, one can even say. So these are three important factors that we should keep in mind when we are trying to understand the kind of environment in which Acharya Satish Chandra was growing up. Now, when he came to Calcutta and got admitted in Presidency College in the FA class, he got Narendranath Datta as his classmate. Okay. And there was another very important person who was already a friend of Acharya Satish Chandra from his school days. They used to study together in the South Suburban School in Bhawanipur, Calcutta. This is Banglar Bagh Ashutosh Mukherjee, the father of SPM, Shama Prasad Mukherjee. So Ashutosh Mukhopadhyay and Acharya Satish Chandra, they were classmates from a very young age. And both of them got admitted in the same class as Swami Vivekananda, who was then simply Narendranath Datta.
I see.
And Narendranath was already, a member of the Brahmo Samaj, and especially of the
Hmm.
Sadharan Brahmo Samaj. He
Hmm.
was initially attracted to Keshav Chandra Sen and later
Okay.
got disillusioned and became a member of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, which was led by people like Shivnath Shastri, Vijay Krishna Goswami, and such people. And when Shivnath Shastri, Vijay Krishna Goswami, the leaders of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, started visiting Sri Ramakrishna, Narendranath, around the same time, was feeling that Sadharan Brahmo Samaj was not able to give him what he was looking for, that it was not able to satisfy his spiritual craving, not just the intellectual craving, but the spiritual craving that Narendranath felt in his heart. He understood that Sadharan Brahmo Samaj was not the place for its satisfaction. So he also started to visit Sri Ramakrishna, and everybody, or I hope that many people know the story of how he became a disciple, despite initial uh, inhibitions and resistance towards Sri Ramakrishna, how he became a disciple of him. So around this same time, Narendranath used to come and talk about his visits to Sri Ramakrishna to his friends, and Acharya Satish Chandra, being one of his classmates, also got to know about Sri Ramakrishna from Narendranath.
Okay.
So he did not initially feel he did not feel interested in Sri Ramakrishna because at that time the influence of positivism on him was
Hmm.
much stronger.
Hmm.
But towards 1882 3, okay, the time when not even 83, I think 84, 85, when Sri Ramakrishna became ill with the cancer that was detected in his throat. um, we get to know from one of the unpublished memoirs of one of the nephews of Acharya Satish Chandra, simply titled Sriti Katha, which Professor Haridas Mukhopadhyay and Uma Mukhopadhyay have mentioned in their biography of Satish Chandra, that Satish Chandra had visited the house in Bagh Bazar in Kolkata of a prominent disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, at whose place Sri Ramakrishna was living in those days. Because the disciple was taking care of the guru.
Hmm.
He was already ailing and got diagnosed with cancer. So even though this nephew of Satish Chandra in his memoir does not clearly mention what sort of meeting it was between Satish Chandra and Sri Ramakrishna, but there is a mention, clear mention of the fact that he had gone to the house of this disciple at Bagbazar in order to know how Sri Ramakrishna was, because from Narendranath he had come to know that Sri Ramakrishna was ailing. The other friend, I should say, friend or senior friend, even that Satish Chandra had received during his student days was Acharya Brojendranath Shi. This is somebody who's a big name in late 19th century and early 20th century Indian philosophy.
Okay.
If you ask me to name three big personalities or authors, um, three very renowned professors of
Hmm.
Indian philosophy from that era, then I would name uh, Rajendranath Sheel, Krishna Chandra Bhattacharya, and Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. So
I
these
see.
are the three biggest names of Indian philosophy in that era.
Okay.
So one of these, Rajendranath Sheel, was a senior student at the Scottish Church College,
Okay.
where Narendranath Dotto took admission after his presidency days. When he was preparing for the final examination at presidency, he caught malaria and he
Okay.
was so ill that he had to lose 1 year. Okay, he had to let go of the opportunity to appear at the examination in the year when he was originally meant
Hmm.
to. So he lost that year and got admitted in the Scottish Church, where Brojendranath Sheel was a year senior to him.
Hmm.
Okay, so Brojendranath became a sort of friend and guide to Narendranath. And it is through Narendranath that Acharya Satish Chandra also got connected with Rajendranath. So I'm describing these connections because it is important to understand
Yeah.
what sort of initial networking
Hmm.
connections, etc., was being set up
Hmm.
between these people, among these people. And later on, within just 20, 25 years, they will all become prominent names
Hmm.
in the Swadeshi movement.
Hmm.
Okay, so after this, we have to mention the new phase of Satish Chandra's life. After his student days were over, he started his career first as a teacher. He was invited by Brojendranath Sheel, who had become a principal of a college in Murshidabad,
Okay.
to teach economics and history there. So he went there and started teaching. But after a few months, I think, he was called back to Calcutta by his parents, who wanted him to pursue law. So Satish Chandra came back to Calcutta, started living with his parents again, and started studying the law. And because of many good acquaintances of his father at the High Court, he got personally trained by renowned lawyers and judges and so on. And therefore, it was not very difficult for him. He was already a very good student,
Hmm.
and he passed the law examinations and became a registered lawyer at the High
Hmm.
Court in Kolkata. After this, there was an incident which is almost paralleling, one of my favorite Hollywood movies, namely Primal Fear. So I'm not sure if you have watched this movie. It has Richard Gere.
Okay.
Yes, Richard Gere and Edward Norton.
Okay.
Uh, and I am not going to diverge the story, but
Hmm.
the incident that happened with Acharya Satish Chandra when he was practicing law shortly after passing the law examination at High Court uh, almost parallels this Hollywood movie plot.
Hmm.
So he was fighting a case for a murder incident, and he got this accused, a clean cheat
Okay.
fighting for him. But later on, came to know through his personal investigations that he had actually got this person released. The person who he had got released
Yeah.
was actually the murderer,
Okay.
and that had shaken his conscience very badly. He
I
came to
see.
the conclusion that uh, as a lawyer, he
Hmm.
was in a profession
Hmm.
where there is no such thing as black and white in
Hmm.
terms of morality.
Hmm.
He has to always, work in the shady area
Hmm.
of morality.
Hmm.
And he decided that this was not for him.
Hmm. Okay.
So he quit law, which
Okay.
was an unthinkable incident in the 1880s, 1890s.
Yeah.
In that era. It's like you get admitted to the IIT and you pass with flying colors from let's say computer engineering, and then you get admitted to Google as an intern. You work there for 1 year, and after that you quit. Okay, so you can understand what kind of reaction it might have given rise to in his
Hmm.
family and
Hmm.
among friends, his well
Yeah.
wishers. But Satish Chandra had a very, very strong character, and he resisted all those resentments. And he decided that teaching was his profession. He will go back to teaching. And he started teaching at the Metropolitan College, which
Okay.
is in today's time Vidyasagar College.
Oh.
Okay, this was the school or college, initially a school, later it got transformed
Okay.
into a college. This institution was founded by Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar himself,
Oh.
and Vidyasagar himself appointed Acharya Satish Chandra when he got to know that he had quit, the job of the lawyer and was looking for a fresh job as a teacher. he himself approached Satish Chandra. Such was his renown. You can imagine from this, incident that Vidyasagar himself is offering a job at his own institution.
Hmm. Hmm.
So he started working in Vidyasagar's institution, in Metropolitan Institution, and he was also a private tutor to many young boys, especially those who were from well-to-do families in Calcutta.
Okay.
The thing that I should mention here is that for his private tutor role, he did not accept any money in exchange of the classes or teaching or tutoring, mentoring that he offered.
I saw.
Instead, he demanded a peculiar thing. He said that all his students should be allowed to live with him. So he made provision for all these boys that he was mentoring, tutoring, to live in the same house
Hmm.
as he was,
Hmm.
and he would be providing them uh, with the basic necessities, food, clothing, etc. Because he was from a well-to-do family himself, and he had also, uh, amassed wealth through his own uh, career, even though it was short-lived. And thus began the actual calling of Acharya Satish Chandra, that he started to discover himself as a mentor
Hmm.
to young Bengali students,
Hmm.
many of whom went on to become uh, well established in various fields,
Okay.
in various professional fields.
Hmm.
One of these, just to give an example,
Hmm.
was Atul Chandra Chattopadhyay,
Okay.
who is perhaps the most well-known civil servant from the British Raj era.
Okay.
So he went on to become an ICS, and even after the independence, he was attending offices of the High Commissioner,
I see.
I think, in Europe.
Okay.
So this is just one example, and
Hmm.
there are many such examples of Bengali students who were personally mentored by Acharya Satish Chandra at the time when he started tutoring.
Hmm.
Okay, when he was not doing anything else
Hmm.
but teaching at Metropolitan Institution of Vidyasagar and tutoring these students.
Hmm.
Then came the third phase of his life, and from there his life got absolutely radically changed.
Okay.
This was the
Sir,
time when,
sir, then
yes,
before the third phase, let me ask some questions.
okay,
Firstly, is this because he was a fan of the Gurukul system or ancient Guru Shishya Parampara? That's what he was trying to replicate here.
yes, but you know what? At the stage where we currently are in the story of Satish Chandra, this inclination towards the Gurukul system does not become very apparent.
Hmm.
Okay, this does not become very clear.
Hmm.
It actually becomes clear from the third phase onwards,
Okay.
where he actively takes an interest in reviving some of the traditional systems and elements of Indian culture.
I see.
So, all I can say, up to this phase, the second phase that I have described
Hmm.
so far, Satish Chandra was somehow feeling a sort of instinct to personally mentor students by keeping them at close quarters. Okay, so he understood, perhaps very instinctively, the necessity of the mentor or teacher living with the student, and therefore there has to be a moral and
Right.
functional example, a practical example,
Hmm.
how the teacher does his thing, how
Hmm.
the entire day is scheduled,
Hmm.
designed, and uh, with how much dedication and concentration the teacher, namely Satish Chandra, uh, does each and every chore
Hmm.
at his own household, as well
Hmm.
as delivers the professional requirements
Yeah.
that are uh, associated with him.
Yeah.
So that example he was very consciously trying to set before
Right.
his mentees or
Right.
students. But from the third phase onwards, it becomes a very conscious effort, and there are other factors which
Okay.
I will
Okay.
describe in that third phase
Okay.
itself.
Uh,
So, you have any other
yeah,
questions
yeah. Two
before
more.
I go there? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was he really that bothered about just the morals of it all? Because if I'm a lawyer, I am going to represent only those people who I think are absolutely innocent. If not, then I won't be a lawyer. Was he just bothered about that, or did he find the job not that interesting at all? And was he going to teach those very things to his students? Was that the main reason that he quit the profession? Because no other lawyer seems to take these things seriously. Why was he taking it so seriously?
Right. So, the moral fiber of Acharya Satish Chandra was very, very strong.
Hmm.
This is something that we get to understand by studying his life comprehensively.
I see.
But apart from the fact, I think there was this religious quest that had started from the second phase itself. I
Oh.
mentioned that he started going to Sri Ramakrishna,
Oh.
even though we are not sure. There are no, accounts that actually describe the meetings that he had with Sri Ramakrishna, but
Oh.
we get to know that he had taken an active interest in getting to know how Sri Ramakrishna was doing, what he had to say to his friends like Narendranath, for which people like Narendranath, who are also good students,
Hmm.
intelligent people, they were taking a deep
Hmm.
interest in Sri Ramakrishna's spirituality and religion.
Hmm.
And therefore, one can understand that this young man, at the cusp of his, uh, you know, his professional life,
Hmm.
he was trying to find some of the answers of the big questions of life.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, this moral preoccupation is perhaps a result of, or maybe an expression of this religious quest, in a
I see.
sense.
I see.
That is the answer to the second question that you asked. And
Hmm.
the first question that you have asked is whether he was teaching the same kind of morality to his students.
Hmm.
Initially, no.
Okay.
His main focus was to teach the practical subjects
Okay.
and to show the importance of dedication and concentration,
I see.
two virtues that he
Right.
had in plenty in
Hmm.
himself.
Right.
So he wanted his students to inculcate those two values, namely of dedication and concentration.
Okay.
And he wanted his students to look at him how he leads his own life. He also used to focus on this simple philosophy of, uh, rather, the philosophy of simple living and high thinking. I think
Hmm.
that was a sort of motto of many Bengalis,
Yeah.
highly educated Bengalis in that era.
Hmm.
But Satish Chandra was particularly fanatic about it,
Hmm.
let's say.
Right.
So these are the kind of examples that he wanted to set before his students, and he
Hmm.
was extremely uh, careful. He was taking minute care of the day-to-day progress of his mentees or students,
I see.
people who he used to tutor.
I see.
So, because of this personal attention that he gave to some of the students like Otun Chandra Chattopadhyay,
Hmm.
they could reach such great heights.
Right.
And when I talk about the third phase, I will also mention some incidents which will make this more clear.
Yeah. 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 Go ahead with the third phase now. I'll ask the other question at the end of the at the end of your discussion.
Okay, sure. So, in the third phase, the most important incident in Satish Chandra's life, at the beginning of this third phase of his life, rather, was his meeting his guru. And this guru was none other than the erstwhile Acharya of the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, but now an Advaita Vedantist and also a great devotee of Vishnu, namely uh, Vijay Krishna Goswami.
Oh.
So Vijay Krishna Goswami, after he started visiting Sri Ramakrishna, became more and more inclined towards Vedanta and Hari Bhakti or Vaishnava
Okay.
Bhakti.
Okay.
And there was also another familial heritage that he used to bear the legacy of, which is that he was a descendant of Advaita Acharya. I'm not sure if you are aware of Advaita Acharya, who was one of the Parshad or
Okay.
the companions of uh, Sri Chaitanya.
I see.
Okay, so Advaita Acharya or Advaita Acharya was a person who had literally instigated Nimai to become, this mad lover of Sri Krishna, and he had basically facilitated Sri Chaitanya's becoming of Sri Chaitanya.
I
Okay,
see.
so in this lineage, in this very famous lineage of Navadvip in Nadia, Vijay Krishna Goswami was born. And even though he started his life as an acharya and proponent of Sadharan Brahmo Samaj, he became a devout Vaishnava and Vedantin after he started visiting Sri Ramakrishna. And in time, he became a proponent of, a special kind of Vaishnavism, which has a great element of Tantra as well. So he became a very powerful spiritual figure.
I see.
And people like Acharya Satish Chandra, Bipin Chandra Pal, Manoranjan Guha Thakurata, these are, stalwarts names from the Swadeshi movement era.
Hmm.
All of these people were actually disciples of Acharya Vijay Krishna Goswami and
Okay.
no longer Acharya. Okay,
I
no
see.
longer Acharya. I
Hmm.
am calling him Acharya because of his association with the Sadharan Brahmo Samaj as an Acharya.
Hmm.
But we should call him Vijay Krishna Goswami from the time when he became the guru of figures like Satish Chandra and Bipin Chandra Pal.
Hmm.
Bipin Chandra Pal is, of course, I hope
Yeah.
you and everybody else understands that he is the uh, he is one of the Lal Bal Pal trio,
Hmm.
right? So when Satish Chandra met Vijay Krishna Goswami, something strange happened. Initially, Satish Chandra was given a nama, that is a mantra, as part of the initiation or Diksha by Vijay Krishna Goswami. And he used to do the japa of this mantra for the greater part of the day. Okay,
Okay.
most of his time got now devoted instead of teaching to the Nama Japa.
Okay.
He used to chant the name of the mantra that his guru had given him. And he said in the memoir of his nephew, again, we get to see that he describes an ineffable joy
Hmm.
or pleasure that he was deriving out of this japa,
Hmm.
this chanting of the Nama. But after a few months, his guru called him and told him that you should either stop or significantly reduce your uh, chanting of the name that I have given you. And instead, you have to focus on a particular field of karma, a particular field of action, through which you will be able to let go of all the prarabdha karma,
Okay.
namely what he has accumulated as a result of his past lives. Okay, the karma that he had accumulated according to his guru
Hmm.
through his past lives up to that point.
Hmm.
So he said that how you can let go of or diminish all this prarabdha karma is only as a teacher that you had already been doing,
I see.
and you have to take up the mission of spreading the light of education throughout Bengal and India.
Okay.
So this is a mission that now his guru lays upon his shoulders.
Hmm.
Previously, he was doing it. Satish Chandra was doing it out of his own volition, out of his
Hmm.
own free will. And he did not necessarily see it as any kind of religious mission.
Right.
But once his guru, Vijay Krishna Goswami, gave him a command of
Hmm.
sorts that you have to now stop your Nama Japa
Hmm.
and instead you have to devote all your time, okay, to this mission that I am giving you, namely spreading the light of education
Hmm.
throughout Bengal and India.
Okay.
Initially, Satish Chandra had resisted this idea. For several weeks, he used to have very heated arguments with his guru, even though he had great respect for his guru. because he did not want to let go of the sheer pleasure that he was deriving out of the Namajapa.
Okay.
This is a kind of spiritual epiphany that he had first tasted at the hand of his guru through that Namajapa.
Hmm.
Okay. Now his guru, who had given him this, very delicious fruit, so to speak, is taking it back forcefully and saying that you have been given a new mission. I am giving you a new command that you have to focus on this mundane work of a teacher.
Hmm.
So initially he had great resistance and he almost fought with his guru for several weeks. But
What's his
finally,
age at this point?
he was this happens in 1892-93.
Okay.
So he would be around 28 years of age.
Okay.
Okay. And though initially he had resisted this idea, this command from his guru, finally, after a few weeks, after a lot of argumentation, he relented. And once he had taken up this mission, there was no looking back.
Hmm.
And in addition to this, his guru gave him another very, very difficult vrata. I should call it by that name only because otherwise it won't be, it won't be uh, uh, easy to understand what this really is, what is the character of this thing. So this was a vrata called Akasha Vritti.
Okay.
Okay, this is a particular sadhana terminology,
Okay.
religious pursuit related terminology, which only such people can undertake who can exercise, who can practice absolute 100% dependence on God.
Okay.
Let me give you, in very objective terms, what this meant for Satish.
Hmm.
So his guru said, you won't be able to pursue any career,
Okay.
meaning you won't be able to pursue any job in exchange of which you get a steady source of income.
Okay.
This was a vrata.
Okay.
Okay, this was a sort of mission that his guru was giving him as part of his religious practice, as part of his sadhana.
Okay.
Apart from the other command that you have to spread the light of education throughout the country.
Hmm.
So how will then he live?
Yeah.
How will he make his ends meet?
Hmm.
That was a question. And we get to know from Satish Chandra's own recorded conversations with some of his students, disciples, and also from this memoir from his nephew. I am not able to recall the name of this nephew. This is important. I think it's Motilal Ganguly, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken. So this nephew of Satish Chandra is called Motilal Ganguly. I hope I'm correct.
Okay.
Who has written a memoir which Professor Haridas and Uma Mukherjee mention in their book.
Okay.
Uh, and they say that this memoir is unpublished. I'm not sure whether it has been published after their book,
Okay.
after their book came out. Anyway, so in this book, there is a mention of Satish Chandra mentioning that there is a mention of Satish Chandra describing how he used to make his ends meet. So basically, he used to focus on his work as a teacher. He was not allowed by this express command of his guru to take any money in return of his teaching,
Hmm.
in exchange for his teaching.
Hmm.
And every month end, he would receive a check of 700 to 800 rupees.
Okay.
From where he doesn't know. Okay, so it has been a conjecture by his nephew who has written this memoir, and also some other people who closely knew him, that it was his guru who used to make provisions for some of his wealthy disciples to send Satish Chandra this check at the end of every month
Hmm.
so that his practical ends can be met.
Okay.
But he himself was uh, completely prohibited from undertaking any job per se, in
Hmm.
exchange of which he would be getting money.
Hmm.
So when Satish Chandra started this Akasha Vritti Vrata, what was the change in his mode of work? Here we come to the question that you had initially asked. So he had a very strong inclination towards not just understanding but also propagating the ideas and ideals of ancient India.
Okay.
Okay, but there was something very special in the manner in which he was putting forth ancient Indian ideas and ideals, and that is, it was almost always kept side by side the great Western ideas and ideals. Not just the great Western ideas and ideals, all sorts of Western ideas and ideals, so that there can be a comparative study by those who are looking at those ideas. Okay,
Okay.
how did he do that? Initially, in 1895, that is the year, yes, 1895, he started this Bhagavat Chatushpathi,
Okay.
which is a school in the model of the ancient Gurukul. Okay, I've
Oh.
already told you that Satish Chandra was fond of this idea of keeping his students close by,
Hmm.
so that he can set an example, moral example, practical example
Hmm.
before his students,
Hmm.
and also take a personal uh, uh, interest in the progress of his students
Hmm.
in whatever subjects he was teaching them.
Hmm.
And he used to mainly teach English, history, economics, and statistics.
Okay.
Okay, so first this Bhagavat Chatushpathi, 1895, where students were taught both ancient Indian ideas, ideals, as well as the latest ideas and ideals that were coming from the West.
Okay.
Okay, so this was a very unique institution,
Hmm.
and many people, because of its uniqueness, got attracted to the idea, and they started to sort of they wanted to become associates in this great undertaking that
Hmm.
Satish Chandra had started. Secondly, as part of the Bhagavat Chatushpathi and its works, he felt the need of starting a publication which will be a sort of mouthpiece for the Bhagavat Chatushpathi itself, but which will also help him propagate his ideas, not just his ideas, but his as well as his friends like Brojendranath Sheel, like uh, people such as Jodunath Sarkar, who was also a very good friend of Acharya Satish Chandra.
I see.
So he wanted to spread the ideas of himself and such people who were his close acquaintances to be spread through a publication. And he started this publication, he called it the Dawn
Oh.
Journal.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the beginning of the journal called the Dawn.
Hmm.
Many people actually think that the Dawn Society was actually the precursor of the journal, and that the journal had started as a mouthpiece of
Hmm.
that society.
Hmm.
But this is not true.
Oh.
Actually, the reverse is true,
I see.
which is the Dawn Society was named after the journal Dawn.
Okay.
Okay, and this is because the journal itself came up in 1897,
Okay.
and the society, the Dawn
Hmm.
Society, came up in 1902, 5 years later.
Okay.
Okay, so when he started this publication, he had several columns uh, in this particular journal. There was one column which talked about the comparative analysis and study of India and the West in terms of philosophy, in terms of history, in terms of economics, in terms of latest ideas that are coming from the West, and whatever ancient India has to offer.
Okay.
So he always stressed on putting both of these worlds on the same platform,
Hmm.
and then stressing on what is good and what should be accepted.
Hmm.
And in most cases, he used to conclude that ancient Indian ideas and ideals are better. in comparison with the latest philosophies, the latest ideologies and views of thinkers that are coming from the West. In most cases, okay, not in all cases.
Acha.
Now, there was another very interesting feature about the journal Dawn, and that was a student's column. This was a dedicated space in the journal where he used to invite writings, contributions from the students that he used to teach, and also students from all across India, not just Bengal, but all across India. Now, because many of these contributions that were published in the journal Dawn were written in Bangla, they were both English as well as Bengali articles.
Okay.
He had taken an idea from another gentleman who had started this initiative to write Bengali using the Devanagari script.
Okay.
So this is something, if I tell people in today's time, especially people like the Bangla Pokho, they will be horrified.
Yeah.
You know, 1 year ago, now I'm reminded of one incident that happened to me. Actually, what happened is that 1 year ago, I had promoted a particular calendar
Okay.
of the Vikram Samvat
Okay.
style.
Hmm.
Vikram Samvat being the ancient Indian calendar,
Yeah.
just like we have the Bengali calendar,
Yeah.
the Shashanka of the calendar that we
Hmm.
have. So, in a all India scenario, in an all India context, the Vikram Samvat is a Hindu calendar.
Hmm.
And this calendar was designed by a friend of mine who is a Sanskrit scholar of Jyotisha.
Okay.
And I was promoting this on Twitter on behalf of my friend. And because this calendar was written using the Devanagari script, it was not written in Hindi, mind.
Okay.
There were content in two languages, namely English and Sanskrit.
Okay.
But because there was the use of the Devanagari script, many Bangla Pukho fans or fanatics attacked me, saying that being a Bengali, I'm sort of destroying the Bengali culture by promoting Devanagari script. Okay, and there were very funny discussions that ensued. I started writing poems to attack them. So, anyway, so this is unthinkable for people like the Bangla Pokho supporters
Yeah.
to even contemplate that Acharya Satish Chandra, a pioneer of Swadeshi movement and national education, had actually advocated the use of Devanagari script in order to write Bangla. This is something that I personally don't support.
Okay.
Okay, I am in favor of writing Bangla using Bangla script, but I am in favor of writing Hindi or even Urdu using the Devanagari script. But this is a historical fact that Acharya Satish Chandra had advocated writing Bangla articles using Devanagari script so that people from other regions in India could also access those articles. You can see the kind of thought process that he had. He was not in favor of translating them so readily into English or any other language, maybe Hindi, but he was simply changing the script so that people can have an intuitive idea of what the Bengali article is saying, even if they do not know Bangla. Okay,
Yeah. They'll understand more or less.
More or less, yes, they will be able to make out the broad points, right? That was the thought process. What sort of students did it attract? The first person that I should mention in this context is Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who was from Bihar and who went on to become the first president of the Republic of India, as we all know. And he was a regular contributor to the journal The Dawn of Acharya Satish Chandra. And this was just one person. There were people like Popatlal Shah from Gujarat, who went on to become a very highly valued and very experienced officer in the British civil service, in the British Indian civil service.
Okay.
People from the south, people from the western parts of India, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and of course from the north, Delhi, Punjab, and UP, Bihar. From these places, students used to write articles, comments, criticisms of various views that were being published.
Hmm.
And this had created a network of students across the whole of India, not just in Bengal, by simply publishing this monthly journal called the
Okay.
Dawn. The next step that Acharya Satish Chandra took was to create the Dawn Society. What was
Okay.
the Dawn Society? It was a very unique institution, once again, just like the Bhagavad Chatushpati was a unique institution founded by Acharya Satish Chandra. The Dawn Society was meant to be an informal school for cultural as well as, I can probably use the term liberal education in this regard,
Hmm.
liberal education training.
Hmm.
Okay, so there were two sorts of objectives, two objectives. One was to train the Indian student, not just the Bengali student.
Hmm.
Again, just like the journal,
Hmm.
The Dawn Society had a very all India outlook.
Hmm.
It tried to capture students from all across India, the imagination of students from all across India. And weekly, they had two classes.
Okay.
On Tuesday, they would have what is called general training, what they rather used to call general training. And as part of the general training class,
Hmm.
every Tuesday,
Hmm.
there would be talks and lectures by various thinkers, writers on the situation of various provinces in India,
Okay.
political, historical, linguistic, and these will be inundated by numbers. I already mentioned that Satish Chandra used to teach statistics
Hmm.
to his students.
Hmm.
Okay, why did he teach statistics? He had a very clear objective. He was of the opinion that in order to understand the country called India, and in order to have a nationalistic feeling, one has to have very objective knowledge of various provinces of India. At that time, there was no such kind of knowledge about various provinces of India for a student, let's say from Bengal.
Yeah.
Okay, so a Bengali student hardly knew anything about Tamil Nadu.
Right.
Okay, though there was no Tamil Nadu, let's say the Madras
Yeah.
province.
Yeah.
Okay, they did not know anything about the Bombay province.
Hmm.
For example, a place like Gujarat.
Yeah.
Similarly, a Gujarati student had hardly any knowledge about what Bengal was like,
Yeah.
what Madras was like,
Hmm.
or any other province of India was like, in terms of even what sort of food these people eat, what language do they speak, what is the nature of their language, what is the nature of the literature, and what kind of economy, what sort of products,
Hmm.
what sort of food produces are grown
Hmm.
in these places. There was hardly any knowledge, at least at the level of young students.
Hmm. Yeah, of
People
course.
who are preparing for university
Right.
and who have taken admission in the initial years of the university,
Yeah.
the junior classes of the university.
Yeah.
So, the Dawn magazine or journal had catered to this large gap.
Hmm.
Okay, and in doing this, at the same time, it was building an all India network of students, which will become very, very useful in the ensuing days of the national movement, national freedom movement,
I see.
starting with the Swadeshi.
I see.
Okay, I told you about the general training classes that used to take place every Tuesday.
Yeah.
On another day of the week, every Friday, in fact, the Dawn Society would again convene,
Okay.
and there will be classes on cultural training. What was cultural training about? It was mainly a class of the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh.
There was a Pandit named Neelakantha Goswami
Okay.
who would give discourses, classes on the Gita. Binoy Sarkar, uh, about whose conversations with Professor Haridas Mukherjee I have mentioned, because that is one of the sources
Yeah.
from which I am drawing all this information.
Hmm.
Binoy Sarkar actually mentions how these Gita classes used to happen. So
Okay.
he said that there will be 75 to 100 students all gathered in either of two locations. One was the second floor of the metropolitan institution,
Okay.
the institution, the school or college uh, where Acharya Satish Chandra used to teach,
Yeah.
the institution founded by Vidyasagar.
Hmm.
So, because the principal of this metropolitan institution, after the passing of Vidyasagar, a gentleman named Nagendranath Ghosh was a very close friend of Acharya Satish Chandra. Uh, they had decided to use a large part of the building as the convening ground of the Dawn Society.
I see.
So every Tuesday and Friday, it will be open to the students coming from almost all colleges of Calcutta
Hmm.
and sometimes even from various districts in
Hmm.
Bengal. Okay,
Yeah.
and Rajendra Prasad had actually taken admission in the Presidency College. He was a student of
Oh.
the Presidency College, so he
Okay.
was also staying at the Hindu hostel.
I see.
Okay, Vinay Kumar Sarkar also used to stay at the Hindu hostel. So
I
they
see.
were good friends. Vinay
Okay.
Kumar Sarkar mentions that he used to call Rajendra Prasad, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, by the name Rajinder Bhaiya.
Acha.
And Dr. Rajendra Prasad used to call him Vinaya Bhaiya.
Okay.
So, so they had almost a sort of buddy
Hmm.
relation going on there.
Yeah.
And they all used to frequent this these classes, these weekly classes of the Dawn Society.
Hmm.
Radha Kumud Mukherjee, who is a very, very renowned historian from the era of Jagannath Sarkar as well as R.C. Majumdar, was a sort of acolyte of Acharya Satish Chandra,
Oh.
and he used to basically recruit students from various colleges and various hostels and messes in Calcutta so that they can come and participate in these classes. Now, Vinay Kumar Sarkar says that there are two reasons for which people used to be attracted towards these classes. Remember, there was no idea of the Swadeshi or or the national freedom movement even at that time when the Dawn Society had started. It is
Okay.
1902, 1902,
Hmm.
and Swadeshi movement would start actually from August 1905. Okay, 7th August 1905, when there was a real meeting which was convened by various leaders of the Swadeshi movement, including Bipin Chandra Pal, Satish Chandra Mukherjee, Rabindranath Tagore, and they decided to undertake the two paths of Swadeshi and boycott. Right. So this is almost 4 years away
Hmm.
from the time of the starting of this Dawn Society of Acharya Satish Chandra.
Yeah.
Okay, 1902.
Yeah.
So, Vinay Kumar says that there are two reasons. One is all the students thought that they will be able to sort of further hone their English writing skills by participating in these classes, and
Hmm.
they will also get to know many new things,
Hmm.
which will be beneficial for their preparations for competitive exams and so on.
Hmm.
Okay, because many people desire to actually become civil servants,
Hmm.
just like in today's time.
Hmm.
Many people want to become IAS. So that is one reason. The other thing is that the very personality of Acharya Satish Chandra, as well as those that he used to invite for giving talks at the Dawn Society, people like Brahmabandhu Upadhyay, Rabindranath Tagore, these people were magnets. Vinay Kumar says that they used to gather students, young people around them, like bees around
Hmm.
flowers. So these are the two reasons for which young students in Calcutta used to take an active interest in the Dawn
Hmm.
Society's weekly classes.
Hmm.
One was meant for gathering objective knowledge about India, her various
Hmm.
provinces, how the Indian people live,
Hmm.
and what is their history. And the other was cultural training, that is to know Hindu religion
Hmm.
through the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, through
Hmm.
Hmm.
classes of the Bhagavad Gita. Meena Kumar Sarkar actually describes that Nilakantha Goswami, who used to take the Gita class,
Hmm.
would go on describing each and every shloka from the Gita, the 700 shlokas that Gita has used to describe each and every shloka by offering the meanings of every word in the shloka. So it was a very meticulously taught class. Okay, so this was the Dawn Society. What was the culmination of the Dawn Society? By the time the Swadeshi movement started, people felt the need of creating a Swadeshi educational institute.
I see.
And there came the special role of the Dawn Society. The Dawn Society dissolved itself into the National Council of Education, Jatiyo
Okay.
Shiksha Porishad. Okay.
Acha.
Satish Chandra invited Sri Aurobindo, who had not become Sri Aurobindo by that time. He
Yeah.
was still Aurobindo Ghosh, and he was teaching at Baroda at the College of Maharaja Sayaji Rao in Gujarat. He invited Sri Aurobindo to become the principal of this National Council of Education,
Okay.
which started off as a college in protest of this circular that the British had brought out, that no student can take part in politics.
Oh.
No university student, no student of any government funded institution, school or college or university, and most prominently of the Calcutta University of Calcutta, will be able to take part in a political demonstration or protest,
Okay.
in any political act. If such participation is undertaken by any student, then they will be rusticated from the institution. Okay, that was basically the intent of the circular. I think it was called the Carlisle Circular. Okay, so in protest of this, the leaders of the Swadeshi movement decided that they should come up with not just Swadeshi clothing, not just Swadeshi salt and various other products, but also educational institutes. And therefore, they started this national college from the National Council of Education. And the Dawn Society, with all its members, such as Radhakumar Mukherjee, such as Haran Chandra Chakladar, such as Vinay Kumar Sarkar himself, becoming teachers at the National College. Now, mind you, after a few decades, this National College will turn into the Jadavpur University. Okay, which is why if you go to the Jadavpur University campus, you'll be astonished to see the bust of Sri Aurobindo. Okay, and the main administrative hall or bhavan is known as the Aurobindo Bhavan. Okay?
Yeah.
There is a reason behind that, because it is nothing but the culmination of the national education movement, which was started by Satish Chandra. Now, I'm saying that because the Dawn Society had dissolved itself into the National Council of Education, therefore, Satish Chandra is a pioneer of national education movement.
Okay.
But he was also a pioneer of Swadeshi and boycott. How?
I see.
In 1903, 1 year after he had started this Dawn Society, and 2 years before anybody in Bengal even thought of undertaking Swadeshi and boycott as political modes, in 1903, Acharya Satish Chandra inspired his students at the Dawn Society, members of the Dawn Society, to start a Swadeshi shop.
Okay.
That Swadeshi shop will be completely, fully run by the members of the Dawn Society, who are all young students studying at the university and various colleges. And they will be selling things like salt, clothing, soaps, and various other household articles. And these were all produced in the Swadeshi way. That is, they had nothing to do with any factory or mill or even any supply chain system that can be traced to the Europeans or the British. So it was a completely homegrown set of products that the Swadeshi shop set up by the Dawn Society quite a few years, almost 3 years before the Swadeshi movement started per se. Okay. Therefore, I would also describe, and it's not me who's describing this. Actually, people like Binoy Sarkar and Haridash Mukherjee and Uma Mukherjee, they describe Acharya Satish Chandra as the pioneer of Swadeshi and boycott because he had set up this Swadeshi shop.
I see.
Okay, so
Okay.
maybe we can take a few questions. I
Yes.
will take a short break here.
Yeah. So my first question is the school Jadavpur Vidyapit, which is just adjacent to Jadavpur University, is that also associated or is sort of an intellectual descendant of this exact system of National College?
Not even a descendant, but it is the you know it is the very culmination of this National Council of Education.
I
In
see.
fact, if you now look for the office of the National Council of Education, this now exists as National Council of Education Bengal. Okay,
Okay.
Bangla Jatiyo Shiksha Porishod.
Oh.
Okay, that office is housed in the Jadavpur Vidyapit School,
I
in the
see.
premises of the Jadavpur Vidyapit School.
Yeah.
And there is a reason for that because they had shifted from their Cornwallis Street office, which was in North Calcutta, to this place, which
Okay.
was basically a gift from Subodh Mollik, Raja Subodh Mollik.
I see.
Okay. Now, because I mentioned Subodh Mollik, I should mention a very interesting thing. So, at one time, the Dawn Society used to meet in a large house, a two-story house. On the ground floor, there was a club that used to run.
Okay.
They called it the Field and Academy Club.
Okay.
Okay. What was the functioning of this club? First of all, the members of this club, Acharya Satish Chandra, Bipin Chandra Pal, Raja Subodh Mollik, Brahmabandhu Upadhyay, Binoy Kumar Sarkar, all these people were members of this club, apart from being members of the the Dawn Society. Okay, Brahmabandhu was not a member of the Dawn Society, but
Okay.
he was a frequent lecturer. He used to
Okay.
be frequently invited by Satish Chandra to lecture his mentees and members of the Dawn
Okay.
Society. In that club, they used to play cards and billiards.
Okay.
Okay, Raja Subodh Mollik was a pioneer in this matter.
Okay.
He took a keen interest in playing billiards,
Okay.
and the very purpose of this uh, set of activities, playing billiards and cards, was to socialize.
I see.
Acharya Satish Chandra used to throw frequent parties
Okay.
in the form of picnics and
Okay.
social events where
Okay.
many students will come, they will have food together, and they will have various games, and they will exchange ideas.
Acha.
Also, on top of that, they will be displaying products, things that they have designed or they have made on their own.
I
So
see.
this was a very, very, very unique, fair sort of thing going on.
Yeah.
The club used to be a regular version of these social events that Acharya Satish Chandra used to throw from time to time. So at the club, Subodh Mollik, who was a pioneer of billiard games in Calcutta, he was convinced by Acharya Satish Chandra, Brahmabandhu, and Bipin Chandra Pal to pledge a big amount for the National Council of Education.
Okay.
So out of the passion for billiards came out the donation that was absolutely key as capital to found the National Council of Education and finally the Jadavpur University or the Jadavpur Vidyapit School.
I see.
So you can understand the kind of thought process that this man had. Absolutely genius. That he would socialize with large-hearted donors, and he would encourage them to mix with his associates and students at very close quarters so that they can also see what was going on, what sort of activities these people are undertaking. And therefore, finally, in a light-hearted moment, they will be inspired to undertake some national cause.
Right.
And for them, this national cause took the form of national education because Acharya Satish Chandra had taken that vrata, right?
I
If
see.
you remember the command of his guru that he has to spread the light of education throughout the world.
Right. So I studied in Jadavpur Vidyapit for 4 years, and all my life I
Oh,
wondered
did you?
that every school I studied in a Brahmo school for up until class 12, and then I studied in a convent in between. So before that, I
Acha.
studied in Jadavpur Vidyapit for 4 years, and I wondered, this is the only school where instead of a prayer to a god, we were always singing instead of prayer songs, we were singing just Bengali nationalist songs. What?
Yes.
Why was that going on? So today I finally got the answer.
I'm very glad, and also good to know your journey through a Christian
Yeah.
school to a Brahmo school to finally a nationalist school. Almost you are replicating in a miniature form the journey of the Bengali society in the
Yeah.
Renaissance.
Yeah. And sir, my second question was, which I planned to ask early on. You've kind of answered this as
Okay.
well. That
Mhm.
how did so many people in those days start colleges randomly or found colleges? Were they asking for the money to British or to just industrialists?
Yeah, so it was not at all random. So
Yeah.
there were many years of planning and various other activities such as networking, which were going on parallelly with the Dawn Society
Hmm.
activities. So Acharya Satish Chandra had a very long-term vision,
Hmm.
and this vision got enthused and reinforced through his mixing with various like-minded people like Sister Nivedita, like Rabindranath, and Rabindranath himself had started a Brahmacharya Ashram school, a
Yeah.
Gurukul in Shantiniketan, something that
Yeah.
we have discussed in the previous
Yeah.
podcast, right? So there were many like-minded people who were constantly thinking of how to offer alternative institutions and options to Indian students so that they do not have to depend on the British government institutions.
Hmm.
Okay, so this was a very long-standing sort of project, and no amount of money was accepted from government sources,
Oh,
and each and every donation for founding such colleges and institutions like the National College came from Indians.
I
So I
see.
have mentioned Raja Subodh Chandra Mollik.
Hmm.
Subodh Chandra Mollik was simply Subodh Chandra Mollik. Only after he pledged this large amount, I think he had pledged 1 lakh rupees. In uh, that time, 1 lakh rupees would be a very huge sum.
Yeah.
So after he had pledged this sum, Bipin Chandra Pal started calling him Raja
Okay.
because of his sort of magnanimity,
Hmm.
large-heartedness, etc.
Yeah.
Then there was Brojendra Kishore Acharya Chaudhuri,
Hmm.
okay, a zamindar from Eastern Bengal, who had also pledged a huge amount of money. So various such Indian donors,
Hmm.
wealthy Indians, had come forward in order to make a mark in the nationalist movement called Swadeshi. In order to understand why they would be enthused, one has to really look at the nature of the Swadeshi movement, which was radically, uh, radically a movement where all classes of people had literally participated. So
Hmm.
everybody was very restless, and they had a desire to do something. They did not know what they will do, but something has to be done
Hmm.
for the country. This sense of ownership towards the
Hmm.
country had been recently awakened in their hearts,
Hmm.
in their consciousness.
Right.
And therefore, everybody, starting from the rickshaw puller to the zamindar, to the landlord, to industrialists, they wanted to make a mark. They wanted to be a participant in this national yagya or
Hmm.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
So that's why we have people like Raja Subodh Chandra Mundik and Brojendra Kishore
Hmm.
pledging and ultimately donating large sums of money, which went on to support the establishment of these institutions.
Right. Sir, my main question is that this particular situation seems to be pretty frequent because so many people founded colleges back in those days. Why is it so infrequent now? And if people do make a school or a college, it's just another random school college. Why aren't we being able to make elite institutions like those were back in those days?
Right. Elite institutions are not built overnight. So when the national education movement started, and as a result of it, the national college came up, it did not become a great institution overnight, right?
Right.
So one factor was the participation of such great scholars
Hmm.
and dedicated people
Hmm.
like Acharya Satish Chandra, like Aurobindo Ghosh, like Vinay Kumar Sarkar and Radha Kumar Mukherjee, who are all teaching uh, for practically nothing.
I
Okay?
see.
Aurobindo used to work for the Maharaja of Baroda for a very attractive salary.
Okay.
But when he joined here in National College as the principal of the National College, he used to get, uh, practically nothing out of it.
I see.
So one has to really look at this sense of sacrificing for the nation, for uplifting the nation to a degree where they can say that yes, we really have ownership of this nation.
Right.
We do not leave everything up to the British government, who are the official rulers. And through that sense of ownership, through the building of Swadeshi institutions, the movement became Swadeshi. It was
Yeah.
not a movement just by name. It was truly a nationalist movement. It was truly a homegrown movement because everything starting from daily requirements, products that we use for our day-to-day household chores, and even educational institutions, industries, factories, chemical laboratories, etc. All of these have to be Indian made, started by Indians, run by Indians, and coming out of Indian vision. Okay?
Yeah.
So that sort of necessity is currently largely absent. And secondly, because of uh, this great march of globalization, I think the model of an educational institution has become just like any other Ivy League American institution. So if anybody wants to start a college, let's say, or a university these days, they simply lack the moral courage and conviction to create something that does not fit the model of the Ivy League school. Okay. The pioneers of the national education movement, like Acharya Satish Chandra, and especially Acharya Satish Chandra, did not lack in this sort of moral courage and conviction in
I
their
see.
own ability and in the ability of the Indians.
Right.
Okay, and in fact, he was quite fond of Acharya Satish Chandra was quite fond of a phrase borrowed from Vivekananda, which is inspired fanatic. He used to often tell his students that you guys have to become this inspired fanatic for a cause that you take up for yourself. It can be any cause. It can be the cause of setting up a new factory. It can be the cause of setting up a school. It can be anything, but you have to be one pointedly dedicated to it, which is why Vivekananda used the term fanatic. So from Vivekananda, this idea infected Acharya Satish Chandra, and Acharya Satish Chandra in turn infected all his students, members of the Dawn Society, by this germ of inspired fanaticism. So that inspired fanatic element is largely missing in today's Bengalis, especially, and Indians in general.
I see. Okay, sir. I have this will be my last question from my side. If you have time, we'll take some audience questions. If you do have time, sir. How is
Certainly.
so much Hinduism in all these people back in those days? Because all of them were reformers, but whereas today any proud Hindu has to first and foremost answer for Sati Pratha and caste system, which was possibly even worse back in those days. So how were these people reconciling the two? Were they pro casteism to some extent, or they were absolutely against casteism but felt that Hinduism could do very well without these things? What were they thinking?
No, they felt this sort of problem, this sort of conflict between two separate schools of thought within Hinduism. One was represented by orthodox people, such as right from the time of Raja Ram Mohan Roy, right, from people like Raja Radhakanta Dev, and down to Acharya Satish Chandra's time, when Acharya Satish Chandra was a student. There was a great orator from the Orthodox school of Hinduism,
Okay.
namely Shashadhar Tarka Chudamani.
Okay.
And in fact, initially, Bankim Chandra was also quite impressed by Tarka Chudamani.
Acha.
Torko Chudamani had actually offered a series of lectures on the 6 schools of Hindu Darshana, the Shad
Okay.
Darshana, at what then used to be the Albert Hall, which is now the
Oh.
coffee house at College Street.
Yeah.
So at Albert Hall, Shashwat Torko Chudamani gave this series of lectures, which was presided over by Bankim Chandra. But very soon, Bankim Chandra found out that this sort of reactionary and defensive kind of Hinduism
Hmm.
was not to his liking, and he became more of a progressive Hindu. Okay,
Where would you place Chandranath Bose? Wouldn't he be on the orthodox side because he had some pretty some views that would be very considered regressive these days, right?
because Chandranath was under the influence of Bankim Chandra.
Hmm.
So Chandranath's trajectory can be followed if we follow the trajectory of Bankim Chandra.
I see.
As long as Bankim Chandra was also a sort of orthodox Hindu,
Hmm.
Chandranath was also an orthodox.
Oh.
Okay,
Okay.
which is why there was a sort of fight, verbal fight in terms of article exchanges on the respective mouthpieces
Hmm.
of the Orthodox school and the Brahmo Samaj
Hmm.
between Chandranath Basu and Rabindranath Tagore, who were
I see.
representing these two
Oh.
sides. Okay,
Okay.
and there was a point when both these sides reconciled.
Okay.
Okay, and it was at that time when Bankim Chandra had realized that Shashwat Torkochudamuni's orthodox line was not his.
Oh.
And Rabindranath actually made a remark about this, almost a sarcastic sort of remark. He wrote at that time, when this reconciliation happened, that of course, how can somebody who had written Vishnu Charitra uh, be under the influence of Shashwat Torkochudamuni? It was only a matter of time that he would come out of Torkochudamuni's influence, and that has happened.
I
This was
see.
Rabindranath's words. And Rabindranath, Chandranath Bosu, Bankim Chandra, these people can be described as the members of the progressive Hindu school of thought. Okay.
Okay.
Acharya Satish Chandra, Sri Aurobindo, all these people were highly influenced by this progressive school of thought,
Hmm.
and they had another element which was coming from Sri Ramakrishna.
Hmm.
So Sri Ramakrishna gave them the element of mysticism,
Hmm.
where there is hardly any orthodoxy, but there is a lot of inner experience, phenomenological experience, where you get to connect directly with God and directly engage with the bigger spiritual questions.
Right.
Okay, so you can understand that the national movement
Hmm.
in the earliest form, that is in the Swadeshi movement form, as an amalgamation, as a convergence
Hmm.
of two streams: the progressive Hindu school of the Bankim Chandra, Chandranath Bosu, and Rabindranath led faction, and the new movement started by Sri Ramakrishna, if I can call that a movement at all.
Hmm.
Okay, new movement started by Sri Ramakrishna, which was very mystical in nature.
Hmm.
Okay, but which was much more accessible
Hmm.
to everybody in Bengal. Okay,
Yeah.
so Vivekananda and Sister Nivedita would be the greatest representatives of this
Hmm.
new movement,
Hmm.
of which Sri Ramakrishna was the initiator.
Hmm.
So the Swadeshi movement is basically a convergence of these two streams.
Right. Okay. I had just one query about Chandranath Boshu because I've heard that he said that women should not get educated and he was in favor of child marriage. So wouldn't that be an orthodox view?
Yes, of course, which is why there was this controversy or argumentation between him and Rabindranath.
Hmm.
Rabindranath was basically opposing Chandranath's views in this regard, in this particular question of child marriage,
Hmm.
by writing a fantastic essay called Hindu Vivaho, where he
Okay.
described the basics of the ideals of a Hindu marriage.
Hmm.
And there was one Pandit, a Sanskrit Pandit, somebody who we can describe as an Orthodox Hindu, who was present at the time of the first reading out, the first presentation of that essay, Hindu Vivaho by Rabindranath. He stood up and almost gave a standing ovation to Rabindranath. He said that I have never ever heard this sort of lucid exposition of Hindu Vivaha.
I
Okay?
see.
That this young poet Rabindranath was then, what was his age? 34, 35. who would be of my age.
Yeah. Okay, sir. I'm taking some audience questions now.
Sure.
Can we say that BHU was next in line with what happened in Bengal?
Yes, absolutely, and not just next in line, but very many people from this national education movement had actually been the board members of the uh, initial years of the BHU. The founding board members were Bengalis who had direct links with this national education movement.
I see.
Okay. So you will find people like Madan Mohan Malviya connecting with people such as Ramendra Sundar Trivedi and Ramananda Chatterjee. Such people were working in in a unified sort of network.
Okay. Then was Rashbihari Ghosh a member of National Council of Education?
Whether he was a direct member of the National Council of Education or no, I am not quite sure of this. But Rashbihari Ghosh,
Okay.
as a great lawyer, because he had become a very famed lawyer at the Calcutta High Court through his practice, he was quite well known to Acharya Satish.
Okay.
And in fact, he was one of those people, his father's acquaintances, in fact, who had uh, who were of the opinion that Acharya Satish Chandra should actually become a lawyer. He should take up the profession of a lawyer.
Okay.
And when Acharya Satish Chandra left law, his practice, and started to devote all his time towards teaching, and through his various activities such as publishing the magazine Dawn, and later on the Dawn Society being, a very famous organization among Calcutta students, Rashbihari Ghosh was generally very supportive of this. In fact, especially with regard to the publication of the magazine, Rashbihari Ghosh was a patron. So was Ashutosh Mukherjee. Ashutosh Mukherjee used to regularly write for the Dawn.
I see. Okay. Someone is asking that weren't Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Lala Lajpat Rai also involved with the Dawn magazine? Weren't they contributors?
Whether they were contributors or no, I am not sure. But
were they involved
Lala
in any way?
Lajpat, not sure of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, but Lala Lajpat Rai recognizes the role of the Swadeshi movement as the very beginning of political agitation towards complete freedom. So, the Dawn Society had given us these 3 or 4 ideas, in fact, 3 or 4 words, which would go on to define the national freedom movement of India right until the very end. First of which is Swadeshi. Second is boycott. Third is Swaraj. And the fourth one is national education, just national education. So there was no concept of national education before the Dawn Society. It was the first entity, organization, which even envisioned the possibility of something like national education.
I see.
That Indians could build institutions on their own, they can run it, and they can successfully produce very accomplished students or scholars through such institutions. This is an idea that the Dawn Society gave. Apart from the other 3 keywords that define national freedom movement, Swadeshi, boycott, as well as Swaraj. And everybody knows about how Swaraj became a catchphrase for both Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Lala Lajpat Rai. Even later on, Swaraj will become a catchphrase for Mahatma Gandhi. He will write his very famous post-colonial, no, rather anti-colonial book called Hind Swaraj. And finally, in the late 1920s, the Congress will undertake Purna Swaraj as its slogan, right? With Nehru giving this call at Lahore. So, yes.
And were these people, the Bengali pioneers, using the word Swaraj just because the word Swaraj meant, or because they were also inspired by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj because of Hindvi Swaraj?
Yeah, they could be very, it's very likely that they were aware of Hindvi Swarajya.
Yeah.
In fact, it's not Swaraj, it's Hindvi Swarajya, right?
I see.
So, from that idea of the Hinduvi Swarajya, the concept and the very coinage of the word Swaraj has come to Bengal. That is very much possible because right at the time of the Shivaji Utsav, as started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, there was cooperation, very good cooperation, in fact, between Maharashtra and Bengal.
Yeah.
Bal Gangadhar Tilak started this in Pune and Mumbai, and this was also being observed in a faraway place, the very center of the British uh, colony,
Yeah.
Calcutta,
Yeah.
right? And there were poets like Rabindranath Tagore writing eulogies for a Maratha icon,
Yeah.
where the Maratha icon was seen as an all India and as a Hindu icon.
Yeah.
Okay, he even describes that Rabindranath in his poem describes in Shivaji Utsav, he describes Maharaj, Shivaji Chhatrapati Maharaj as somebody who, for the first time after the great ancient kings of India, the vision of binding whole of the Indian subcontinent under one flag and one point. Okay, these are basically lines written by Rabindranath.
Yeah.
I am just giving a very poor translation.
Yeah. It's not poor. I have done a full analysis of that poem from my channel about 1 year back.
Very good, very good.
And that I have something to ask about that poem. It's a little out of the purview of today's discussion, but still, if you can. He says there explicitly, Rabindranath says that forgive what happened when Marathas came to destroy our places, etc. Now move on and now get behind this man. What do you have to say for that? Because I have had some comments from some Bengali right-wing nationalist sorts of people also who got very angry with this poem, or me reciting this poem, said that no, Rabindranath was no historian, he didn't know what he was talking about, and we must never forgive the Marathas for that phase.
Oh, this is for the nth number of time that I'm hearing this excuse that Rabindranath is not a philosopher, Rabindranath is not a historian, Rabindranath is not a literary theorist. Therefore, he should not be talking about
Yeah.
these fields. Anyway, I've been hearing this since my Vishwabharati days.
Okay.
Even Vishwabharati students used to say this.
I see.
So basically, what Rabindranath says is based on the knowledge of the Borgi attack or the Borgi invasion.
Yeah.
And people must know what really happened. The Borgi invasion is not something that the Peshwas or even the Chhatrapati who was a descendant of Shivaji Maharaj at that time, ruling the Maratha Empire from Pune, their seat. They were not sanctioned by any of these, either by the Chhatrapati or by the Peshwa. So this was a renegade faction led by Bhaskar Pandit, okay, the Burgese, who basically wanted to do dacoity and raise money out of it for their own sustenance, and also to bully some of these regional forces like the Odisha king and the Bengal sultans. Okay, and that was that. I mean, a retired Indian Navy personnel. I am sorry, I cannot remember his name right now. Has written a number of books on the Maratha Empire's history.
Okay.
And in one such book, he mentions this incident in great detail. I think we should take it up as part of considerable amount of our discussion in some other episode.
Yeah.
Where we can elucidate and actually explain what happened. In terms of a renegade faction of the Maratha Empire. Also, this renegade empire was situated at a faraway outpost.
I see.
Much beyond the direct control of either the Peshwa or the Chhatrapati.
I see.
So all this is actually explained by that ex-Navy personnel, now an accomplished historian, a self-taught historian. But I have read his book.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that I am aging and I'm losing the ability to recall names. But I would like to really take up that book and what it discusses, because it's fascinating to know the history of what went wrong in the final years of the Maratha Empire.
This renegade argument seems absolutely fair to me. It makes sense to me because I'm reading Savarkar's Hindu Rashtra Darshan, where the first section is entirely the history of the Maratha Confederacy, and there we get plenty of such stories that people going renegade, betraying their Maratha superiors, etc. So it would make
Of
perfect
course,
sense.
of course. This is factual, you know.
Yeah. Okay, this is a sort of a long question. Do you think Sri Ramakrishna
Okay.
Paramahansa should be taught to kids and in schools? If you read Ramakrishna's biography, his mom thought getting him married and giving him family responsibilities will settle Ramakrishna down. How much of this thinking was prevalent in society then? And was this notion of settling your child in an ideal family life, settling them in an ideal family life, did that drive parents to engage in child marriage or be accepting of child marriage?
Yes, this is an age-old Hindu view that
Hmm.
the Garhastya ashram, the
Hmm.
householder's responsibility, is the very central position and the very central pillar
Hmm.
of the entire Hindu Samaj. I mean, if you look at how the Hindu Samaj is designed, then
Hmm.
you will have to agree that the householder's role is absolutely central and key to its maintenance.
Hmm.
Right? The householder will generate wealth
Yeah.
and distribute that wealth through various channels, through
Hmm.
donations, through philanthropy and various other welfare
Hmm.
projects.
Yeah.
Okay, so every and also there is the very biological need of
Hmm.
maintaining, sustaining one's lineage.
Hmm.
So these two reasons were at the heart of every Hindu parent
Hmm.
when they sort of wanted their children to settle down early,
Hmm.
and so was uh, uh, Sri Ramakrishna's mother
Hmm.
thinking. In fact, that was the thinking of even Sri Chaitanya Dev's mother.
Hmm.
Sri Chaitanya Dev had an early marriage,
I see.
and also let me mention the protagonist of today's podcast, that is Acharya Satish Chandra. He did not get married.
Okay.
So he was a lifelong bachelor,
Okay.
and it was one of his tenets, in his philosophy, in his outlook, that uh, marriage would result in uh, considerable compromise on the part of the national movement activist, okay,
Hmm.
or the Swadeshi activist, because Swadeshi was much more in vogue as a term.
Hmm.
So he actually preached it to his close coterie, and some of his students, actually, including Vinay Kumar Sarkar, they testified to it that
I see.
Acharya Satish Chandra used to preach
Hmm.
that remaining a lifelong bachelor will allow them to not make the compromises
Hmm.
that were necessary for the householder, for a married individual,
Hmm.
in the path of their Swadeshi activism, Swadeshi politics, or Swadeshi whatever they're
Hmm.
continuing.
Yeah. RSS follows these things for the same reasons, right? That is why I guess Narendra Modi also followed this pretty much.
Yes, yes, I think we can say that.
Yeah.
So there is an element of being renunciate.
Hmm.
Okay,
Right.
that this karma yoga
Hmm.
has to be done without uh, undertaking marriage. But Rabindranath's view in this matter is very interesting.
Okay.
Rabindranath and Devendranath, Maharishi Devendranath,
Okay.
they thought that placing oneself in the very heart of samsara
Hmm.
by becoming a householder, by getting married,
Hmm.
is a much more difficult task, and
Yeah.
therefore it is a much more pious act of karma yoga, because you will be tested in the anvil of samsara.
Hmm.
You know, in
Right.
Bengali we say that kamarshalar kamarer hapore itani খেয়ে খেয়ে
Hmm.
আগুনে পুড়ে যাবে.
Hmm.
So in that sense, you will be beaten in
Hmm.
the anvil
Right.
of this iron smith
Hmm.
of samsara, that
Hmm.
that is this householder's life,
Yeah.
and there you become, the anchor of several other people whose lives depend on you, and
Hmm.
therefore you have a mission to also inculcate your views, your karma yoga to them.
Hmm.
This is not possible for the sannyasi, and therefore the sannyasi's karma yoga is easier.
Hmm.
That is the view of Rabindranath and Maharishi Devendranath.
Hmm.
And what very interestingly, they take the sustenance, their inspiration for this sort of peculiar interpretation from the Bhagavad Gita.
I see. Okay, sir. Last question. Are
Yes.
you putting all this in your book, Agni Yugat? Because that's pretty much the book I'm looking most forward to at the moment in my life.
Yes, that's correct. So basically, you can think of these episodes that we are doing to the College Street Kolkata
Hmm.
podcast are, some previews of
Yeah.
the chapters of my upcoming book.
Okay. How big
Yes.
is it going
So
to be?
how big?
Yeah. How long?
How long? So I think I will try to uh, limit it to 400 pages,
Okay.
but there is a fair chance that it might spill over 400.
Okay. Great. Great. Okay. Okay, Srijita. Thank you very much for this enlightening discussion. Thank you, Srijita.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure as usual.
Thank you. Thank you guys for joining.